Hi guys, this is Sam with Spieler Custom Baits. Today I'm going to go over how I tie my bucktail jigs. I start out with a tungsten 3/0 hook. Add a little bit of adhesive just to make sure that the thread binds to the shank. I like these hooks just because they have a nice bait keeper which keeps the thread from slipping back. I go ahead and I tie the thread in, and then I double back over it just to make sure that we get a really good lock-in. Clip off my tag ends. And then I go for my bucktail. We're starting off with a purple bucktail. When cutting my bucktail, I like to make sure that I get all the guard hairs out. So what I do is I pinch it between my fingers and fan it out. It just ensures that all those small hairs that are back towards the actual pelt are taken out. I also like to layer in my bucktail. I find that if you use a pinch that's too big, what can end up happening is the hair will slip, which will actually inevitably make your thread slip as well. So I'll take the clump and I'll tie it right behind the jig head, tie it down, and then what I'll do is I'll take my fingers and I'll kind of pinch it right over the threads just to make sure that it settles in, and then I'll re-lock that in. And with my bucktails, especially with my larger bucktails, this is probably about a 3 or 4 inch one. I like to make sure that we tie it in stages, just to ensure that there's not too much hair being clumped in at one time. We're going to continue to tie bucktail in, a little bit more purple again, just to fill out the body a little bit, getting rid of those guard hairs. And then we're going to tie this one under just to bring a little bit more full body underneath that hook shank. Pinching it down just to move those hairs back and forth, just to get them to settle in. And then locking that down. I like to go over the neck of these bucktail jigs a couple of times just to ensure that, number one, that they're cleaned up and there's no hair just hanging out, but it also helps lock in any of those strands of hair that might be just a little bit loose in there. And once I have my purple base, I'm going to take a little bit of the chartreuse bucktail, kind of repeat the same process, but we're only going to be tying this in on the sides, more for an accent color. Then again, just like with the other bucktail, we're gonna fan it out, kind of pinch it about midway through, and then fan out the guard hairs just to get them to fall out. And we're gonna tie this on the opposite side real quick, just a few loose ties, then to kind of set it in a little bit before repeating the same process of pinching it in and kind of evening out those hairs to make sure that they don't slip. Now we're going to continue to do the other side, clipping off a piece from the hide, fanning it out, getting rid of those guard hairs. And then tie it in right behind the jig's head on the opposite side. Pinching it to where I want it to be placed. And then loosely kind of tying it in and then locking it in. Now this is going to be the last piece that I tie into this jig, so I want to go ahead and I'll build up that thread just to kind of clean all the hairs on the end out. So I'll go over it just a couple of times. It also kind of ensures that there's even pressure being held on the hairs of the jig. And tying in layers, especially this way, as you can see, you can get a pretty good full body on your bucktail jigs. And then I always like to finish with at least a double whip finish, just in case one of the knots end up failing or get frayed, which is pretty common with any type of jig. Clip off my thread, and then what I'll do is I'll take an adhesive. I prefer using Loon Hardhead, and I'll go over the threads. The type of thread that I'm using is a pretty loose fiber thread, so it actually soaks in the adhesive pretty well and kind of makes it almost like a cohesive coat around the outside of it. And I'll make sure I get full coverage, especially over that area, that tag end where we cut off the thread. And then as you can see, I'll do a real quick close-up. This is a purple chartreuse. Has a pretty good full body. And thank you for watching.